Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. What is up, gatekeepers? How are you? How are you? How are you doing? I see you all in the chat here getting along. Everything is cozy. Everything's wonderful. Lovely to see you. It's been another week, right? Bears? What's going on with the bears? Do we have bears in Australia? They got some cute animals. You know, it's everywhere. Some of the cutest things, and then you've got the, the not so cute, the ones that come after you. I hear those kangaroos aren't anything to mess with. Hello, D-Rock. Hello, Caillou. Wow, it's good to see you. It's good to see you, Ted, and your waggy tails, all three of them. Don't ask. I'm doing great, Cathita. How are you doing, sweetheart? Susan Woodcarver. Oh, gosh. Hello, darling. Those wonderful artistic hands of yours. Welcome in, welcome in. Welcome to everybody. Renice, hello. Hey, Cassie. Thank you for sharing. I know you did. I appreciate you so much. Anybody that comments or shares or comments in the live chat or throws out ideas and theories, everybody contributes to this channel. Did you like going to Australia? Was that wonderful? Can you guess what my favorite was besides the koala that danced? Is he not precious? Yeah. Hey, Stimulate, what you doing? You went fishing? You didn't catch Jack, but did you have a good time? Did you find your peace? Did you connect with nature? Did you recharge, regroup? Did you adapt and overcome? That's what it's all about. You didn't go to catch fish. You went to catch you. Did you catch you? That's the most important thing. Hello, Joanne. Welcome in. Welcome in. Yep. Oh, you did like going there? It's so, now my favorite, besides the koala and besides what was it? The kangaroo that knocked the little boy over. I mean, I thought that was just precious. His dad just kind of, look, we used to raise kids different back then. You could tell it was an old video, right? And, I just lost my guest. Pop back in here. Where'd you go? I saw you the whole time. I was just about to introduce you in. We have a surprise guest, ladies and gentlemen. And it's somebody picked fresh from our live chat. How about that? Now, as you know, just some quick housekeeping, and I'll bring him on in here. I got to tell you what my favorite is in all those pictures. Like I said, the little kid kicked by the koala, but it's the young Aborigine boy, just native, just feeling it, just picking up that nature, dancing barefoot, feeling the drums. It doesn't matter if you're Aborigine or Cherokee or Ojibwa or a tribal from like the innermost depths of the jungle of the Congo. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're a grandpop on the front porch tapping your foot and beating on the old table, whatever, to a beat, and your grandkids dancing barefoot on the front porch drinking lemonade with not enough sugar in it. Doesn't matter. It's all about connecting to the earth. So if you went fishing and you didn't catch anything, I bet you did. So pick fresh from this chat. So as you know, Steve can't be here tomorrow. You all left over there. Thank you, Steve, my brother. And congratulations so much. Words can't really describe. Nicole, Steve, Mulder, just all the best, man. All the best. Just welcome to the family, Nicole. Just midnight. Here's the thing, we're having a good time. We're having a good time. Love is in the air. We're sending out good vibes. I wore my shirt. It says good vibes. Can't see it. My boobs are in the way. There you go. Good vibes. We're sending love around the world. We need it. We need to put some light out there. We're going to dip a toe in some darkness tonight, and I brought on a special guest to help us get through that and commentate through it. But each and every one of you contribute here. Hey, Jack, how you doing, sweetie? Um, just to stop for a minute and say thank you for participating, because I was talking to Steve earlier when we were talking about the show tonight. Again, thank you all for coming over from Steve's channel. If you did, we are an acquired taste. We don't change our recipe for anybody. You either dive in if you're hungry, eat. If not, get up from the table and give room to somebody else. Sit down and conversate if you don't want anything to eat. If you don't want to, be fed light or ideas like that. We have some damn good stories here, and we just throw out some good quality theories and we knock the ball around the court, because all we're trying to do is understand what's going on. Understanding ghosts, understanding cryptids, Bigfoot, imagination, magic, energy, you know, quantum entanglement. And we're just trying to sort it and just trying to guide each other through the journey. And the cool part is this show is all about the people you meet along the way. And one of the people I met along the way, been in the chat forever. We've talked through emails, we've talked through messengers and things, is another artist and another mind that really appreciates history and facts and digging into the mystery of history, if you know what I mean, and bringing that back up and just taking another look at it, like whether it be the Lizzie Borden case or throwing out trivia quizzes on history just to stimulate your mind. So if you'd welcome my guest last minute, so thank you so much for doing that, stepping up. But let's bring in Radio Vault. A little AJK, what do you think? Welcome in, buddy. Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I got you 552.
I hear you double. It keeps like echoing, but
Okay, you
yeah, I
have,
can hear you, but
look at the
there's
bottom
an
of,
echo. I'll
well,
just try to work
here,
through it.
let's try let's try something. At the bottom of your StreamYard, there should be a settings gear. Look for that settings gear and go back in and see if you can do echo cancellation in there. It's got a couple little sound things you can mess up. Don't mind us, chat. Talk amongst yourselves, and we'll be right with you
Okay,
with little technical issues. Is that a little
that's a little
better?
bit better.
Hey, hey, look at us tearing it up already. So thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in. Listen, tell the chat. You've been up to some, I wanted to say no good because it sounds funnier, but you've been up to some real good. I mean, I'm really digging your channel and I want to get it out there and throw the link down. Mods, throw that link down for his channel if you wouldn't mind and put it in there too. Tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it first kind of started off as I found like kind of paranormal, but then I moved away from it, and now I'm starting to do history.
Like history and true crime-ish kind of, and that Lizzie Borden one, that was great. I love the military one. I finally got to get it at first. I think you had it on private at first. You kept going, it said video not available, mark private. So I mean, it's just I do stuff like that all the time. You don't realize how much work goes into just just these little things, right? But the quizzes, tell us, where'd you get the idea for that? That was pretty cool. I like them.
Oh, yeah, you should be able to do it too. If you get a certain amount of subscribers, then YouTube will open up the quiz tab for you, and you can. I thought it was a good way to promote my channel.
It is. It is. I love it. The shorts and stuff like that. There's a lot of work that goes into those, though.
It
You know.
One of my favorite one of my favorite series is that I found a bunch of I'm sorry, it's the echo is throwing me off. Still, it's still echo, but I'll just try to work through it.
Let me see if I can do something from my end. Keep talking, honey. Go ahead.
The One of my favorite sources that I found was a lot of Yeah, I found a bunch of sources on Black Americans that after the Civil War, like really persevered, and I thought, well, gosh, I never learned about any of these people in history except for George Washington Carver. I did a video on him because I thought I think he's one of the most important people in agriculture. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then
Yeah.
other than him, like that lady that became the first CJ, was it CJ Wells? She became the first. Um, she delivered mail and was a stagecoach driver, and I just
Yeah.
thought that was fantastic out there in
It's
Montana. You
fantastic.
know,
Yeah, yeah. And it's things like that, it's the facts, and it's so important to have those out there. And I hope that there's parents that are using these things as learning tools, because they are. You've got the visuals, you've got that quick kind of meme visual remembrance. You know how like your mind works. That's why, pictures in books, we always remember the picture that was next to the information, in school. Even if we don't remember the whole thing, we look back and we remember those. It's burned into your mind. So it works in that way. I'll tell you, when my kids were little, we had, I know it sounds funny now and seems so minuscule, but it was the bee's knees. Then it was the cat's meow, whatever you want to call it. But Schoolhouse Rock. And at first all you could see it was in between. They would play a Schoolhouse Rock, like it might be like multiplication table, or it might be one of those songs, or you know what I'm talking about. Do you remember
hmm
Schoolhouse Rock? Yeah. And it might be history one, it might be the Constitution, it may be for those who don't know, this is all done hand drawn like cartoons, and you'll have this thing that looks like a scroll, and it's singing that it's a bill, but it's teaching kids how a law, how a bill becomes a law. And it's incredible because you've got the song, you've got the visual, and something that your mind can take in without having to do a lot of work, and it's just burnt your memory. It's a wonderful way to teach. And it's the YouTube shorts are the same. I think it's used, in that capacity. It's used in other capacities as well. Just in some of them very, very well, but in history and teaching, what do you think?
YouTube, yeah, YouTube is pushing shorts right now because they're trying to compete with TikTok.
TikTok.
And
Yeah.
I I'm not on TikTok because I think it's going to be banned eventually,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's
You're
just my
not,
feeling
I don't think you're
about it.
wrong. I don't think you're wrong there, you know. But I
But like,
mean, a lot of them should be, let's face it. I mean, for it, how many people read the agreements? If you did, you would shudder in your boots, because a lot of those kids are just hitting those I agree, I agree, I agree, and you don't realize you gave them access to your messages, your DMs, your phone contacts, your emails, to read your emails, to your pictures, everything, you know, and in some cases passwords. I mean, it's not much to have a backdoor into some of these things. Look, I'm no techie and I know this. You know what I mean? So be careful out there. Don't hit any links you don't know. And but hey, I didn't notice. Did they get your link up there, honey, for your YouTube? If not, make sure it gets up there, because I want people to go subscribe if you haven't. Just go support each other. If you have, Susan, throw yours up there. Cass, throw yours up there. If you've got a YouTube channel, or you've got a website or whatever, you're an artist, you're, from music to, mechanics. I don't care what it is, drawing, put it up there. We want to support everybody. Thank you, Kathita. So, had you ever been to Australia?
no, I wish that was one place that would be really that in New Zealand. That would be like the two best places to go, I think.
Yeah.
I've been a lot of places in Europe though.
Yeah. What's been your favorite and why?
Um, I really liked Switzerland
Oh,
because
wow.
it was really clean, and
Yeah.
the air was really clean. And I remember our bus pulled over so the driver could take a break. And I used to smoke back then, and you can hear all the cows in the valley with their bells. Like they all wear these different
Oh,
sized
wow.
bells, and it
Yeah.
just sounded like you want to talk about relaxing. It was just really really a nice sound.
That sounds so neat. I never would have even thought of something like that, you know. Now, did you go there? What, what years were you there? Was it a short trip
Probably
or?
like 1993.
Okay. Yeah.
It was probably, you remember those Sato tours that and if you went to the travel office, they used to do,
Oh,
remember in the
yeah,
military
yeah,
for
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, how cool. Yeah, yeah. That's neat. That's very cool. You know, I talk to people who've been to Europe, and Rob Guttrell's coming on back on in a couple weeks. We love Rob. And him as a medium walking through all that history. I know it sounds so crazy to say history, everybody has history, but it's different. It really is different wherever you go because of how far back it goes. I mean, if you're talking about, the Chinese dynasties, or you're talking about America, the difference is, by thousands. So it's not that just what was on the land beforehand, the massacres and everything else. We've got some stories coming up tonight that have to do with that. And, I was really glad that one of the paranormal investigators brought that up, and it said it's not just what happened in the Prince Charles War on this um, on this land. It was what happened before that and after that, and that's how I look at it when you think about going to Scotland, and you can imagine going up to the castle ruins there, or going someplace like Switzerland, like you. Now, did you do any mountain climbing or skiing or anything like that? Did you just mostly the town,
Oh,
or?
yeah, I went skiing. That was a lot of fun, and
Oh, wow.
it it'll wear you out too. Like it'll really I slept really good.
Oh, I bet.
I slept
I
really good that evening too. That was a lot of fun.
Wow, wow.
And it's so
See,
beautiful
yeah,
in the mountains that they're so majestic. Any mountains, I just love being in mountains.
yeah, yeah. I do too. I do too. There is something about it. I mean, Cabin 22 was written around one of my favorite mountains, just outside of Huntsville, Alabama, in a place called Madison, and the outskirts there. And it's beautiful. It's Montesano Mountain, and it's just something about it's just a little old mountain compared. I mean, certainly no Everest. But I mean, it's just, there is something about the way the trees are up there, and the less it's messed with, the better. The less cell towers, of course, and all the cutting the wires and stuff. I hate that. So this one didn't have a lot. It was at the base, they had, some houses, and at the very top, and of course the cabins and stuff. They really are there. But this mountain, just there was something about it. And walking any trails, I can imagine skiing is that way. I've never skied. I'm not a cold winter sport person. You know, I'm just not. I'd be in the bar with a hot chocolate, a little Southern Comfort in it or something. But and that's fun. But trekking up now, hiking them, that's a different story. Absolutely love it. You know,
Yeah, that's
but
what they say about Muscle Shoals, Alabama, that there's just something
mhm,
majestic about that place.
yeah, yeah, there is. There really is. Everything is so different. If you haven't gotten out and traveled, I mean, left where I was thinking this the other day. I know this sounds so strange, but to think about people not so very long ago, and probably still, but less, certainly less, of where you're born in the town, and you wind up living your whole life in that one town. Never leaving, never really going anywhere. If you do, it's short and come right back, but just, from beginning to end. I wonder how much that really still happens, where people just know what the surroundings that they have around them. Of course, now with the internet, you can pretty much go anywhere, virtual, you know, tours and all. But it's different. It wasn't so very long ago where people did that, and it was common. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
could.
because I was, like probably just like yourself. I joined the military when I was 17 and went in when I was 18, and that was it. I was gone.
Right, right. And you just keep going, and all over the place, you know. So anyway, tonight we're going to Australia, and again, go over there and check out AJ's the channel, because I like it. I like the history. I don't have time to make a lot of shorts because I've got so much else going on, just trying to keep this balanced. And depending on how much research, or if I have a guest that I have to do a lot of research for, or read a couple books even, or whatever, it takes a lot of time. But I like the shorts, and I like people utilizing that in that way, because in a short amount of time, it's really teaching you an awful lot of information and facts on an interesting subject. I think like when your quiz had to do with like Amelia Earhart, and you've had like the military one. I love that. Absolutely loved it. And it's a lot more than just somebody sitting there saying something or talking about a picture or whatever. You know what I mean? There's a lot more goes into it, and I appreciate your work. So, you want to
What I
tell some ghost stories? Go ahead.
well, what I tried to do on that for what I called it the Fourth of July message, I took clips from different conflicts that we had in the going, and then go in reverse order back to the revolution. I didn't get everything in there because we've
Yeah,
had
it's
so
good.
many. I mean, I didn't put the Spanish American War in there, or
Yeah,
some of
so
the
many.
other ones, but like
Hey, thank
it's
you
just.
so much, Acid King.
Oh,
Look at
thank you,
that.
Acid Kicks.
Isn't
the
that nice? Isn't that nice? Thank you so much, honey. I love that icon too.
But if
How
you
nice.
I haven't had I haven't had TV subscription in. Yeah, I haven't had like a TV subscription in like 6 or 8 years, and I can't watch the news anymore, and it just feels
Me
like
too.
they're trying to
MK
divide
Ultra,
us.
and MK Ultra, and you know what I
Yeah,
mean. The frequencies are off, man. I mean, even being as sneaky as changing the uh the the frequency that records are played on. They just changed it a couple of degrees there, and it made all the difference with the fear. It's there's so much when you think about it, and it can really be overwhelming when you think about how you can almost feel outnumbered because they're hitting you from every direction, whether it's on the news or it's in the music, or it's in the air, or they're spraying crap, and or it's in the food, or they're getting here too. So it's like you feel like I don't know. I think it was Bruce Lee when he was fighting all those guys at one time. And he says, choo, 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 choo. That's what you feel like nowadays. But if you just stand and you let that go around you, and you go, okay, I'm going to do, like I always say, do what you can. If you can't do anything about it, you got to let it go, especially if you're a light worker. I mean, that was what I focused on last weekend, because it's true that when you see suffering, or you see something that you can't stop, or you start listening to everything that they're trying to, if you start feeling the way they want to make you feel, that's when you got to pull back, and
yeah.
nothing I can do about it. Let
So
it go. Handle.
I was watching something, and maybe it was one of Tony Merkel's confessional podcasts, but like the 1930s Germans, right? It sounds like Yahtzees. They
Yes.
they knew to broadcast their propaganda at a certain frequency,
Yes.
and that
100%.
got everybody kind of fired up. And
100%. Well, I mean, I don't know what was your, if you don't want to tell it, your MOS. What was your MOS?
oh, I was a track vehicle mechanic,
Okay.
but I worked in the motor pool. Basically, I ordered parts.
Hello, brother.
I did the PLL TAMS kind of thing.
I spent all my time in the free motor pool. People
Hmm.
don't realize it until you're in there. I mean, just the combat volleyball alone. There's a lot of downtime, folks. I mean, it depends on what motor pool you're in, but inevitably in the military, depending on what base you go to, if you get on a real lax base, the worst part about being in is the boredom. So you find you try to find things that aren't illegal to do. You know, so poker games, spades. I got a candle going wild here. Maybe somebody's trying to tell us something. All this different stuff. So, we'd sneak cars in. hot rods and stuff to work on Buddy's car, sneaking, you
Oh,
know what I
I have
mean?
a Ouija board story in the barrack
Oh,
for the
please tell,
okay,
tell,
this is
tell.
the only time that, I
Army
ever got on
simulator.
one, and I highly recommend not doing it, like, please yeah, but,
I did more things I shouldn't have
so
done enough.
we were asking this thing questions, and the planchette was moving around, and so it was answering questions correctly that only I would know. Like, I was asking him questions about my grandmother,
Wow.
and so I said, "Okay," I'm like, just to make sure this is not, subconscious thing, I took my hands off of the planchette, and the other guys had theirs. I said, "What year was my grandmother born?" And I kid you not, that thing moved 1, 8, 9, 8. And she was born in my grandmother was born in 1898. My mother's the
What?
youngest, and I'm the youngest grandchild. And I said, "What is her name?" And it spelled out her name. Now she has like one of those old timey names that you'll never hear in a million years,
Yeah.
and it spelled it out Tolie. Her name was Tolly,
Oh,
which
wow.
yeah, that's an old school name, isn't it?
Right, that is old school. I was thinking like Beatrice or Dorothy. That's what was going through my mind.
Yeah,
I don't even heard
we
say
were
it again.
asking.
Tully?
Yes,
Tully?
Tolly. We were asking,
Tolly. Okay.
and then
How pretty.
we weren't trying to aggravate the thing. We were asking him, the whatever that thing questions, and it was answering it. But I was like, it freaked people out, though. I mean, like I was it was answering a bunch of questions
Me
that
first.
nobody knew.
See, that's trippy. And then you have people tell you, well, the ones that really get you are the ones that, so they can't say that you are subconsciously, without your own knowledge, moving it because you really know the answer, so you're moving it even though you're not aware you're moving it. You know the people that I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
they can't say anything if it answers a question that you don't know the answer to, or anybody at the table, and then you go look it up. That's the stuff that gets people,
yeah, because those guys knew nothing about, like,
right?
I never told anybody about my grandmother or nothing
Who
like
would know
that.
her?
That
Yeah,
was but that was the first and last time I'd ever put my hands on one of them things. Like it's like I would warn everybody against doing it. So it's
yeah. That would make a hell of a clip, though, if we just cut it right there. We
you
could use
think
that for a lot of stuff.
you think I would have seen more ghosts and stuff like that
Yeah.
in Germany, being that
Oh, yeah.
it's they're like thousands of years older than we are, and
Yeah.
but I've actually seen more. I've seen more stuff in the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Wow.
I was telling somebody a few weeks ago, I said something about, like, I was like, "Well, I grew up in a haunted house," and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." And I'm like, "No, I'm not talking about the haunted house that you pay $2 to get in." It'd be
Yeah.
like when I was a child.
A haunted.
I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, these aren't people dressed up in costumes that are popping out of the corners and saying boo." I said,
Yeah.
"No, I had real ghost in my house." And
And
I
it can
want
be
to
unnerving
I think it was
over a
Native
long period of
American.
time. Yeah. Now, where was this house?
Actually, northern Illinois. There
Okay.
was there was a what they did was they dammed this creek and made a lake out of it, and then they built a bunch of houses around. So it was like a giant horseshoe. You just drove
Okay.
around. We didn't live on the lake, but my neighbors had a pond, and I would go fishing a lot of times after dinner. And but I think the land, it had belonged to the maybe the Sananok Native American tribe. I could be mispronouncing
Yeah,
it, but
I'm not familiar with
it's one
who
of
would
them
be.
little one
Yeah.
like little tribes that you would
They
have to
got
really,
moved all over, honey, so much it's
yeah,
hard to, you can pretty much bet, even large groups got broke up into a lot of smaller groups, and then they got renamed something else. There's so many different misunderstood naming of, tribes. So it there was definitely people on there before the other people moved them off, and probably multiple times, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I think it may have been cursed. I may have been on cursed land. You never know. There could have been people could have fought each other before we showed. Before any Europeans or whatever showed up. It could have been. It could have had blood spilled on that land for all we know.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, pretty much anywhere. I mean, no matter how far. First floor is saying hi. They want to make sure you could see. They didn't know if you could see chat or not.
Oh, it's
AJ.
yeah. It's just hard to kind of follow the chat while you're talking.
It is because it's the thing is you want to answer that, and you're listening to the guest or you're listening to whoever else is talking. That's multiple conversations you're trying to sort in your head, and then you're trying to think of what to say, and you kind of look and you just go blank, and it's like the train gets knocked right. That old Hot Mess Express gets knocked right off the track, man. It's hard because they say such interesting things. But please continue. So you
Oh,
had how long were you in this house?
um, I think until junior high, and then we
Oh
moved,
wow.
and then I had to move in with my uncle. uh, Probably like 10 years, 8 or 10 years.
Yeah. Wow.
I had to move in
So
with my uncle, and because his in-laws lived like right next door, and they weren't. And this was a really old house too, and there was nothing in it. It was clean. There was nothing, no activity, and it was a pretty old house,
mhm, mhm.
and which was a nice. And then we moved back into another house, a smaller. We had to downsize. We moved into a smaller house. It was just my mom and I. My sisters are older than me, so they were moved out. And of course, that was built new, so it was clean.
Yeah.
Which
Well, again, we've learned it could be the people. It could just be something passing by, saw a light. Somebody might have abilities in the house. More than one person might have ability. There's so many reasons a house could be haunted or a person
I,
could be haunted.
I would I would wake up. I woke up the first time I saw something. I woke up and I could see into the kitchen. I could look down the hallway if my bedroom door was open. I would just sleep with the door open, and I woke up and looked in the kitchen, and I seen something leaning up against the refrigerator, and then there was an orb going. There was a soup tureen on top of the refrigerator, and so as far as like at my time, how old I was, I'm 6 foot now, but like the refrigerator was tall to me,
Right, right,
at
right.
at the time for my age.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was something just like spinning around. It was racing around the soup tureen, like going 100 miles an hour.
Oh,
And
wow.
after
How
that,
unusual.
after that, I slept with the door shut. And
Wow.
one time, we had some friends of ours come over. That So I had a mirror in my bedroom, and above the like Chester drawers, right?
Okay.
Uh, to you check yourself before you go to school. Make sure your
Yeah,
collar's not jammed and
yeah.
jammed
Or you
down your
or
and
or or you got one of those dryer sheets stuck
yeah,
to your
yeah,
calendar
there
or
you go.
whatever.
It stuck to you. and
Sock. I know what you mean,
and
man.
and like so the mirror could see into the hallway if the door was open in the bedroom.
Oh,
and
jeez.
and so I saw this like black. It wasn't a very tall. It may have been like 2 3 feet tall, but this thing was pitch black. It was blacker than Darth Vader. I'm not joking. And it had a
Wow.
stick with like a it had a stick with an egg on the end of it, and I never figured out what that had to do with any.
Was it like the shape of it, or did it just look like a
Like
stick
he was
with an
holding a
X?
wand. Like he would
Okay.
like
Okay.
a wand with a egg on the like an egg was stuck to the end of it. But it was in the shape of an egg.
Right. It could have been a
And
gemstone of some sort.
then later when I went to Germany, they have it's a pagan thing that they carried over into their Easter. The kids would go and cut the pussy willow tree branches, and then they would put eggs on the end of it, and they would carry them. I mean, that's pagan because that ain't got nothing to do with what Easter is about, right? I mean, it's not about.
What?
and that like really tripped me out when I first saw. I was like, "Oh wow, that's just like that thing." It made me
Oh
remember that thing.
man. What are the chances though? I mean, how bizarre is that? And you're talking about the kitchen too. And again, you see how excited I get when I hear a new ghost story. And it never gets old for me
And
because
that thing
every
scared
story is different. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it scared the hell out of you. But then to go and see that there was some kind of pagan ritual where they're walking around with an egg at the end of a stick, you
that thing
know,
scared the hell out of me. It was bad. And
dude,
it was heinous looking, like really ugly.
dude. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know, it's just that you don't realize it. Here's the thing. My mind is racing in a million directions. But when you're talking about the kitchen, I don't know what it is about kitchens and I don't know what it is about mirrors. It's, especially if, like you said, you've got the mirror but if you look in the mirror, you can see down the hall or some kind of crazy mess like that. It freaks you out when you think about it. But the other one that gets me is a story I heard, and had it was a kitchen story. There's a bunch of them, but this one that came to mind was the kid would watch in out his bedroom door, much like your story, into the kitchen, and something, the little red light that's on the oven, whatever it might be. Maybe it was just an indicator light of some sort, but it's a little red indicator light, just a pinpoint of color of light in this kitchen. And something would like block it, cut the light, and he knew something walked through. Stop it. Isn't that creepy? That's the thing. It's a little stuff too that makes you nuts. There was a story. Listen, I'm going to do an episode on this, and AJK, if you want to do this with me because you dig in history, you know how I love that stuff. If you want to dig on it and bring it and we'll do a show together, like Donnie's so busy. If you want to do it, take as much time as you want. But the Brownsville demon story, I want to dig back into that because dig this. I had no idea the depth of that story. And it's very much like a lot of the stories we look at, like the haunted with the Smurls that Ted loves so much, the Smurfs.
Mhm.
Um, that had everything. And people just poo poo it like it was, nobody talks about it. Amityville, Amityville, Amityville. This actually happened over here. It's infuriating. You wonder why. There's more of that programming propaganda stuff. It's the one that flashes into your face all the time and on all the advertisements and the books and stuff, the posters. But anyhow, this Brownsville thing, it started very much like you're saying with this dark figure, looked very much like what you described. Didn't have an egg on a stick, but similar hooded type thing. And Edna, thank you. Oh my goodness. Oh goodness. Honey, better late than never. God love you. Thank you so much. Mwah. We love you, love you, love you. Thank you, guys. And we will get to Australia. Just we're going to finish this real quick.
Yeah.
We're just visiting. We're visiting, folks. We're going to Australia.
Do you think the Lizzie Borden trial was that like the first
Deep
um
dive.
like blown up? I mean, because that was like the OJ or the Lindbergh baby
Oh,
trial of the time.
yes, you could say. You could, yeah, absolutely. But it's funny. It's like,
Maybe Salem witch trials. I guess the
oh,
Salem witch trials would have been the first like really.
yeah.
But
but
but the Lizzie
I,
Borden thing, they really ran like, and they had
right.
newspapers and
Well, it's
stuff like
newspapers
yeah.
yeah, and it was all that time. And I think that's when you start hearing about it because that's when you're starting to hear about, think of the time. It's 1912. You're starting to hear about H. Holmes, not, the Chicago Fair, not long, right around that time, right? You had early around the same time Jack the Ripper. We tend to think that that was so much longer ago, but it wasn't. You know,
Yeah,
it
I wonder
it
if
was.
H. Holmes was the New Orleans axe. I'm trying to think when the New Orleans axe murder. Remember the jazz?
Oh yeah,
They
yeah,
had
yeah. I would, the
that was 1900.
psychological.
I think that
Yeah,
was 1903, maybe.
it's close. It's close time. But if you look at it on the psychological level of the killer and the MO, and uh, I don't think it was his style. I think his style His was he liked to fish. We were talking about fishing earlier. He was that guy. He was that
Oh,
psycho.
he was the BTK killer
He
of
was
the
the
yeah.
yeah, he wanted to the challenge, he wanted the chase, the control, the manipulation, or he wanted it done. And it was chloroform, you're out, you wake up in a gas chamber, I'm gonna listen to you scream till you're dead. That was his jolly. As he got dressed to go out, he's listening to this. That was his shtick.
Yeah.
When people say about him being the Ripper because he was on the boat, because there is that guy that's going out and saying, "Hey, Vixen Dothick, oh my goodness, thank you so much. You guys are so kind. I, I just, you just tickle me to death, and I just love you all so much. I can't imagine. Thank you kindly. It means the world to this channel, and it goes right back into the channel. I promise you. You have my word. Thank you so much for your trip down under Oz. Oh, be safe. Take a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the New
Thank you,
Orleans
baby.
axe the New Orleans axe murder, he targeted like Italian
Yeah. It was an
grocers.
immigrant
Like
deal.
they
Yeah.
owned grocery stores. A
100%.
lot of them.
Yeah. And two, that whole all the data is so skewed on all of that information, via newspaper or be journalists or from court reporters, you know for lack of another term, um because they lied so much. They lied as much then as they do now. You know what I mean? So a lot of that is skewed. If you back up off of that and you look at all the stuff that actually happened and what we've picked up by being true crime buffs and conspiracy buffs and whatever you want to call that, and paranormal investigators, and just interested in these deep, people like that are interested in all those different things. They're intrigued by the crooked detail. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Instead of being shy away from, oh, this is too much, I can't handle that, I'm going to go get my nails done and go to Starbucks. Instead of that, then we go, excuse me, tell me more. And we dig in, we dig in, we dig in. We're not afraid to get dirty and get down in that rabbit hole, and that's whether it's ghosts or whatever. And, the stuff that we've learned along the way, there's just it just I still, like I said, I still get excited about this when I hear that your story is matching up to details I just started to pick up on the Brownsville house. Kathleen, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Super sticker. You guys are the absolute best chat
I'll have
ever, and I
to
promise you
research that one.
we're
The
going to
Brownsville
Australia.
ghost.
Oh,
Brown
please do. Do you want to do it? It'd be so much fun.
is it Brownsville, Texas or somewhere else?
It's, I couldn't tell you, I think it's the name of the road. But if you put the demon. Now here's the let me give you some quick bullet points. Dude was a major, I believe he was a Marine. And it does make a difference, guys, because there's like this, you know what I mean? It's a different kind of training. We know what we mean by that. So now, and he's a major, right? So there's a type. So,
Mhm.
so, so he childhood, he sees his house, always intrigued by this house. House is like calling him, kind of, as a kid, wonder what it looks like inside. He goes away, does his military, comes back to the town. House happens to be for sale, buys it, gets in there. He loves it. He's intrigued by the house. Semi large family, wife, I think 3, 4 kids. I think it was 4 kids. Now, right away, there's this under the stairs. I don't know why that's already creepy, right? Under the stairs. There's a light where you have to reach in and find the string to turn the light. You know what I mean? That kind
Mhm.
of light to reach in. And it's a little reach in. And he said that the first thing he ever noticed was he would have to go in there for, I guess they hung their coats or whatever, like galoshes, who knows. But he would go in there. He could never get the string. And he would have to go and get a flashlight or something, figure it out. And the string would be wrapped around the light bulb, or it'd be wrapped around each screw on the light bulb, or it would be way over here and wrapped around a nail that was up there, to the point where, like, he'd take the nail out. And he said the creepiest thing, it's the little stuff that gets under your skin. like the light, like the, like you see in the thing going around the
Hmm.
thing. So he said he would reach in and he would have to undo the string. He said every time, undo the string from wherever it was, and then he would like close the door and open it back up again, and it would already be wrapped around something again, no matter how fast he did it. And he said that boggled his mind. Why? How could it not? And here's the thing: he stayed. That wasn't enough for him to go, oh, okay, we gotta. You couldn't sort that as you know what I mean. But because he was a major, he's got that kind of trained mind, and he's also got that Marine stubborn. I'm not going to lose a battle here. I just don't know what I'm fighting, which can be quite a story. You know what I mean? And it turned out it truly, truly is. And they were there 16 years. He would not give up. He was not. And if you think to yourself the crap that went on there, the thing his family went through as a father, how could he not leave? But he had this not doing it, you know? And it's an intriguing story. And the stuff that went on there, folks, I had no idea. But if you think The Haunted was a story, now I'm going to try to get uh the guy on. His son is also active in podcasting and Substack and Reddit and things like that. So I'm gonna try. But if you want to do it, I think it would be great. Like, let's not talk about it anymore. Look it up. Go and see what you want. I'll throw a couple of interviews at you so you'll know what we're talking
Hmm.
about, where I'm coming from, and you just bring your thought and your takeaway, your vantage point with it, and we'll bring it to the chat. And it's a fascinating tale, absolutely fascinating. And it's really good because we have decades of data on it. They're still out there talking about it. I think the book came out 2004, maybe. That's just a guess. I think I recall seeing that, but eh, I'm not 100% sure on it. But I think that'd be very interesting because it's the depths. It's like what you're talking about with your house. And I'm sure there's multiple things happened in that house throughout, the time you were there. And it might have been little subtle things, but they happened, and it's intriguing, you know.
I would, and you know what happened in that house later, much later, with new residents is one of the appliances caught on fire in the kitchen,
Oh,
and
oh,
the house didn't burn down. They were able to repair it, but that's and they still
that's, I mean,
nobody
it could kill
believes,
the whole
and
house.
none of my family believed me. I'm like, that house that house was haunted.
It's like, what the heck's wrong with you? Yeah. It's like, poo, 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 poo. Let's wake up, wake up. Bacon, bacon. Who's got the bacon? Acid. I can't say it. I'm tongue tied. Choo, choo, choo. Acid kick needs some bacon. So chat, throw some bacon his way. Throw some bacon towards AJK. Make sure you get into that link and go sub to his channel so you can take these quizzes. Take these. Listen, there's a challenge. Come beat me. I think of all the ones that I got one wrong out of all the trivia, about all the trivia things you've put up. I got one wrong. So, and you know what? I learned something. You know what I mean? So it's awesome, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to try to understand what's going on around us and trying to sort some of this stuff, and go the
Yeah, that
ghost stories. It doesn't matter how many there are. Every one of them, it's its own individual, like, amazing little thing. Go ahead, honey. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'd like to go back next time I go up to visit my family. Though I would love to stop by that house to, but I don't know how the owners are going to have some
Yeah.
stranger knocking on the
Oh,
door saying, "Hey,
well,
I grew up here when I was a little kid.
exactly. Tell the truth.
Have you
Exactly.
seen anything?"
That's exactly it, because what if? What if they have, and you've given them some kind of validation that maid who answers the door, and it's like, yeah, I see in the linen closet, whatever. or the family that's there, if they're seeing something. Because how many ghost stories have I showed on this show that happened, whether it was the plumber that got to go work on the water heater and go, hey, have y'all seen anything? And so when my daughter says she sees things, he goes, she's really seeing things, because I used to see them too. That's so
Well, that
cool.
and then on Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles, there's one takeaway I get from that show is that people are so relieved to tell somebody their story. It is um,
Yep.
like there was you'll hear adult, well, both men and women, but when you hear a grown man is like crying on his show
Oh,
sometimes, telling their stories. Because
it's
like one guy
so
said
true.
he had to shoot one, and he said he's been waiting for 20 years for the police to knock on his door and say that he shot a feral, like he thought maybe they shot a feral
A feral
human or something like
person.
that.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Yeah,
my
and
gosh.
because he said he had a specific gun, and he knew that he was the only one that bought ammo at the local ammo uh, at the uh at the local where he goes to buy ammo at the local gun
Right.
store or something like that, that he's the only one that purchases that particular ammo. So he said it would have been real easy for the police to find
To hunt
him.
him down.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe need to change up your ammo there, bro.
I mean the
Throwing a little
well,
some diversity, right? Isn't that where they
yeah,
pushing?
well, he and this happened in Louisiana. This happened in Louisiana too, and he said that like the thing fell off a
Oh.
cliff into the river, and
Oh. Oh gosh. Oh
yeah,
geez. Oh geez.
and so like
And you gotta feel bad too. I mean, just I hope
and
not.
because he heard other people telling their Bigfoot encounters, that it made him feel a little bit better, that he
Yeah.
didn't shoot another. He thought he was living with guilt from shooting
That he
another
thought he
person,
well,
but it's
isn't it
listening
funny
to
how
other
they make
people.
this distinction though? I mean, that fine line. And it may, and he was relieved because it was this Bigfoot and not a. It's just funny how people can make that distinction, but we do. We do. It's a
I mean, I
natural
don't
thing.
think.
Most of us would all feel that just as bad, but be honest, you
I'm
would think,
I'm
oh,
glad that
not a
people
human
like
being.
aren't actively trying to go out in the woods to find one to
Right.
shoot
Oh,
one,
I
but
hope not.
he was kind of justified. He said that that thing was working itself up into like he said a bloodlust, and he said
That's
that,
strong
and
words.
yeah, and
It is.
I think he may have been.
Oof.
It was self defense. Clearly,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like shooting a.
Well,
It's like like you can put your arms if you run across a bear, you can stand up and go
yeah.
and a lot of
Good luck.
times like a black bear, they'll just turn tail and run. That's what the forest workers told me to do. If I
Grandpa Walton told me to bang two rocks together. And
yeah.
I swear that shit is ingrained in my head. I'm going to do what Andy Taylor told me to do. And Grandpa Walton, they were never wrong. And all these people that, I was raised by the TV. I was a 70s kid. So I got raised by the TV. Luckily, it was then, not now, because I don't know what I would have been. That's a fact. But, the banging the two rocks together and, all this other stuff. And of course, the natives, always, sharp, a really good stick. I mean, maybe, your guy at the house. I mean, let's not make fun of sticks, because a lot of Native Americans use those and would just use the bear's own momentum and weight against it. Some things are so simple. Like if you think of the Bruce Lee, kind of stuff. Everything is just so simple. It's just very methodical and very, you know, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I mean, so many martial arts, so many of the hand to hand combats that they taught us in the military and in basic training, a lot of that is a combination between martial arts from the Orient all around and Native American. All their stuff. Follow me, I'm the infantry. That's native. That's native. Follow me. All of this stuff, and Boy Scouts and things like that. They go back to the arrow patch and all of these things. Even as much as doing the mash and the mobile units, and all of that they got from Native Americans. You know, isn't that something? You know, but it took them. I find it funny, and here's kind of a full circle back to your military video, and the way you took it, the way you went from like now backwards, and tried to catch all the different wars and the The only thing that changed was the weapons and the uniform. The look on the face and in the eyes was the same all through the decades. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
saw it. I saw it. I saw the work you put into it. So to circle back to that, it's my train just went completely off the track. All right, you want to see some ghost stories?
Hey,
And what was I
I,
saying?
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna
Okay,
leave and then come back and see if that
echo goes.
if the echo, yeah, if the
All
echo
right, and
stops.
let's see how it sounds when I play a video. Let me see if it does it when there's a video. Let me see if this is the right one.
Uh,
And we'll watch a little and comment. We're gonna do commentary throughout. Get popcorn. Now's the time. Go get your popcorn and your drink, your adult beverage, whatever you got. Your moonshine, apple pie moonshine. Do you guys remember what I was talking about? It was a really good thought. I'll remember it sometime in tonight. But let's see if you got the echo with this.
oh,
It's a cool picture. Are you getting kind of an echoey sound or no? He's gone, isn't he? All right. Well, we'll just go ahead and go on with it. Let's start it again because this is a cool picture. Okay, here we go. This is so cool, guys. Now, let me tell you something about this. Hey, JK, take all the time you need. I just remembered I wanted to do this, so give me a minute. Can somebody play the song? Do, 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 do. He's back. Give me just a second. How you doing? You got brighter. If you can hear me, you're muted.
I can hear
There
you.
you
It
there
sounds
you go.
much better now.
Oh, does it? Oh, I'm so glad because this is a great movie. Now listen, everybody thank him for coming in. This was last minute, and I told him he could come tonight, tomorrow. He can do the whole week, and we're doing Australia all the way through for 2 nights. But we're so lucky to find this. Now this was done. Um, let me see. I got to get the right one here. I need the music. Here we go. Now, I think it was 1984 that they put this out in the 80s. Okay. So Haunted is an Australian documentary from the 1980s that investigates 14 credible cases of paranormal activity. Okay. Now we may not finish it tonight. And listen, honey, you don't have to stay through the whole thing either. If you got to go or you got to go walk a dog or something, I'm going to go get some more hot water for my tea. But we can comment through this whole thing. I want you to. If we see something or you guys are shouting something out in the chat, put it in capitals if it has something to do with what's going on. I'll stop it. We'll talk about it because you guys have a lot of information, a lot of thoughts, and a lot of ideas when you're watching these ghost stories. Now, they took this very seriously. They made these people sign affidavits that said that they were telling the truth. They didn't pay them. And they took this really seriously. It's really good. And the stories are phenomenal. We even got a ghost wearing a little red bikini in it for you guys, I'm not judging. So let's just assume. Can we still do that? I'm still doing that. Okay. So now it's really cool because I'd never heard of this guy. He was a parapsychologist in Australia. We try to give, we reach back to Harry Price, 1938, and Peter Underwood, and in the 30s and 40s, and Hans Holzer here in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And this, I'm excited to find another one. His name is Dr. Maurice Marsh. I really like the dude. I like his little attitude. He comes forth and he's just like so excited about it, but he's got his reverence as well. He's got his suit and he's in a library. So that makes it official. But I like him. And he is with the University of New England, New South Wales, Australia. And I think we're in for a real treat. Would you like to say anything before we start, or are you ready? You got your beverage or your popcorn? Are you
I'm
good?
good. I'm
Are you ready to roll the bean footage, as Steve will say? Isn't
yeah.
it wonderful, Steve and Nick get married? Look at that. You
I know
know,
Steve's
I
got
know,
that pregnant glow.
I know he does. Yeah, he does. He's good. He's a blushing bride. He's adorable. So But yeah, we wish them all the absolute best. Prayers out there in all seriousness, high energy. Listen, send out the love. That's what it's about. The world needs, didn't Dionne Warwick say it? What the world needs now is love, sweet love. All right, so let's start this kick-ass video, man. I hope you enjoy it. I'm so glad I can bring it to you. Can you hear it okay? You're 5'5"? Good? I love this little kid, man. Love him. Him too. Look at that shot. Through a screen, you can tell it's wild.
In this documentary, you will meet 28 people, including scientists and policemen, who claim to have seen a ghost. And the apparitions will be recreated exactly as they describe them. You can decide for yourself whether or not the ghosts are real. But your guide will be a scientist who has devoted many years to researching such things as hauntings.
Here it comes, the doctor himself.
He is a depth psychologist who moved to Australia 25 years ago after objecting to the system of apartheid in South Africa. He became a senior lecturer in abnormal and therapeutic psychology at the University of New England in New South Wales, and has degrees in psychology, the arts, and education. But he was also one of the first people in the world to qualify in parapsychology, the recognized scientific study of the supernatural. Dr. Maurice Marsh is no ordinary ghost hunter.
You know, there's no doubt that people do actually see ghosts. Hundreds of ordinary, everyday Australians from of life have seen them. I found that about 1 in 5 of my students had had some kind of psychic experience. Of course, there are many different kinds of ghosts. Poltergeists, some appear to be the spirits of dead people, others again the telepathic projection of people's thoughts, and some appear to exist merely in a sort of time warp. Those are only some of the possibilities. But let's start with the kind of ghost that we've all heard about, and that's the apparition that traditionally haunts Old English castles. You might be surprised to hear that Australia, although a relatively young society, has what might be called historic haunts.
Some believe that ghosts are the tortured souls of people long dead, and are spirits condemned to haunt the places where they suffered or sinned in life. If that is true, then there can be no better place to look than Port Arthur convict settlement in Tasmania.
This is going to be great, Port Arthur. But yeah, time warp, right? So listen close to what the good doctor is saying, because I picked up a couple terms too. He's going to talk about something he calls the ether. Oh, I can't remember what it was, but he's going to say it here in a minute. And each time they've got a ghost story that matches the type of ghost he's talking about. It's really good. It's really good. Can you hear it okay? Are you hearing okay?
Yeah, the sound is great.
Holy shit. What was that? Did you hear that scream? I swear to God. Chat, did you just hear that scream? Did you have a scream on your end? Oh my God. It sounds like somebody was just... Is there somebody in your house that screamed? Please, God, tell me that your wife just saw a mouse in the kitchen or something.
That was my child.
Oh, thank God. Oh, man, I didn't know whether you were alone or not. I was like, get out of the house, get out of the house. Okay. Woo. All right. Woo. Back to our ghost stories. Wow, God.
A place once described as hell on earth. More than a century ago, shiploads of convicts, men, women, and children, were transported here from England for crimes which could be as petty as stealing a loaf of bread. At Port Arthur, these prisoners were often subjected to the most inhuman treatment imaginable, chained for weeks at a time, forbidden to speak, whipped, or even hanged for their misdemeanors. Death was often the only escape from the tyranny of British colonial law. Port Arthur was guarded by armed sentries and savage bulldogs chained together on a narrow isthmus separating the prison from the mainland. Convicts were forced to suffer or die here, not in their hundreds, but in their thousands. And many people who now work in the gloomy ruins of Port Arthur believe that ghosts haunt the settlement. The building with the most haunted reputation is the parsonage, erected in 1842 by order of the colonial secretary.
I'll move closer to the mic.
The parsonage and all other historic buildings in the old convict settlement are now being restored by the Tasmanian government as the Port Arthur Conservation Project. These building contractors used to believe that ghosts are invented by people with wild imaginations, but their attitude changed dramatically when they were given the job of renovating the old parsonage. The men lived several hours' drive away in Launceston, and so they decided to sleep overnight in the parsonage during the contract period.
It was quite often that as we were coming on down the back section there, we could hear this knocking noise, and but to me it sounded as though it was coming from the roof. And I wasn't the only one that heard it. At different stages, we all heard it.
When I first came down here, it sort of was a bit of a joke between all the blokes, you know, and by the time we left the place, it was no longer a joke. It got pretty serious.
We'd just suddenly go cold, and you could feel the cold coming through you.
At this stage, did you believe in ghosts?
No. No, I never ever believed in ghosts at all.
What was the most dramatic thing that happened to you then?
Well, there was one night I came down from the hotel, we had tea, and we were walking, well, I was by myself, I was walking down from the hotel, and went through the kitchen and went to the room where I was sleeping, and I went to put the light on, and as I put the light on, I just got this glimpse of this image of a woman in the corner. I could see right through, I could see the wall behind it, and my bed. You know, I just said, well, you're seeing things, you know. I tried to convince myself that it was my mind. There's a light, probably, as I switched the light on. But as I started to undress to go to bed, I took my overalls off. I just taken the straps off, and I was standing by the fire, and all of a sudden the curtains came flying off the wall.
That was it for him, I bet.
I'd never believed in ghosts, and I still sometimes think, well, perhaps I was seeing things, but I still think about the curtains. I mean, there's no way they could have come off like they did.
Mike Smith's description of a sudden drop in temperature, an unexplained chill in the atmosphere, is something noticed by many other witnesses just before a ghost appears. The next witness, Craig Goodwin, describes a peculiar experience which scientists call sleep paralysis. It's a terrifying phenomena, also known as the hag effect, which temporarily paralyzes its victims with the sensation that a ghost is sitting on their chest, trying to suffocate them.
Listen to what he says.
Psychologists estimate that about 1 in every 7 people have had the experience.
Stop it. 1 in 7 people have had this experience, the old hag syndrome. 1 in 7. They're psychologists. Is there some kind of an epidemic of this in Australia I'm not aware about? Had you heard this? Hey, JK, had you heard this? There's so many old hag, 1 in 7. That seems high to me. You know, that's a high statistic for people to be having. There must be some kind of epidemic of the old hag syndrome in Australia that we're just not privy to.
And you'll find it repeated in other haunted houses.
On this particular night, I was in bed asleep, and I don't normally wake up during the night anyway. And when I realised that I was awake, the brain more or less told the rest of the body to sit up, sort of thing. And that was it. I couldn't move, It was like as if I was just paralysed.
But he sort of looked like he was trying to get away. He sort of had his hands coming up in the front of him. As I put the light on, I could see the shadow of him doing it beforehand, but when I put the light on, as soon as I put the light on, he'd sort of come straight up on the bed and he was trying to strangle me.
Many people will dismiss the builder's story as nonsense and say they jumped at shadows after working themselves into a state of fear over the old building.
1 in 7.
But they're not the only ones to report ghostly happenings at the parsonage. And phantoms seem to have haunted the same site for at least 112 years. An architect, an archaeologist, and an historical botanist employed by the restoration project also claimed to have had strange experiences at Port Arthur. A ghost was first recorded here by a visitor from Hobart, George Grunsell, who stayed in the parsonage as a guest in 1874. Grunsell wrote about it in his memoirs.
The judge, Sir Valentine Fleming, was a fellow guest at the parsonage when a most intense light streamed from under the door of a room on the opposite side of the landing. Sir Valentine peeked through the keyhole, and to his astonishment could see the interior as though brilliantly lighted up with gas. When lo and behold, all was in sudden darkness again. The next manifestation was rather startling. A servant girl entering the guest room let out a terrific shriek and fell senseless to the boards. She had distinctly seen the figure of a man in a peculiar garment looking at her through the window and grasping in his hand a knife or dagger which he held as though about to strike.
If many people experience noises, lights and apparitions in the same building, it's very difficult to say that they're all merely imagining it. In fact, there are many theories to account for haunts, and one of them is called the psychic ether hypothesis. This theory suggests that...
There it is. The psychic ether hypothesis. That's a new one on me. Now, what he's going to describe, we are aware of. I think we just all call it something else. So see what you think here. Very interesting. Psychic ether hypothesis. Let's see, put it back just a second. 26. Right there. Okay.
For haunts, and one of them is called the psychic ether hypothesis. This theory suggests that an intense emotional experience, like the suffering of the convicts at Port Arthur, can somehow alter the space in which it's released. It's almost as if the energy of those long dead convicts had somehow embedded itself in the surroundings and under favourable circumstances could play itself over and over again like a video recording. Many people that have psychic experiences
I was muted. Sorry. Stone tape theory. Thanks, guys. Isn't it funny how they just keep changing what they call things? I mean, this might not be a thing, but it's something I've noticed over time. They just keep changing. And it's the same. Is that meant to confuse us? Or are we just doing that to keep it fresh, to keep it new? I love his explanation of it. And I also love the fact that he said what I've always said. Again, I'm nobody, but it's nice to be validated that something I heard in the 70s, and it was very popular by parapsychologists in the 70s. Now, this guy's in the 80s in Australia, to say that a whole room of people who see an apparition walk through the room, whatever they all say they saw, it was mass hypnosis, that there were no ghosts. So that's been something I've kind of always thought about, of course, I don't have a degree. I don't have a piece of paper on the wall in a frame that says that, but I think that's bullshit. I think it's a ghost. And this guy basically is agreeing with me in the 80s and saying it's very hard when everybody sees something and they all see the same thing to say that it's made up or they're lying or that it's, mass hypnosis or any of these other things. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Experiences don't talk about them for fear of being thought odd or laughed at. But those who witness ghosts are often the very people in our society who are appointed to investigate facts honestly and objectively.
Sydney's Rose Bay Police Station is a strange building with an even stranger history. The station is in a converted two-story terrace built last century to serve as the gatehouse for an old mansion called Woollahra. There's some evidence that convicts were whipped on the site in the early 1800s, and according to local legend, the old gatehouse later became a brothel where a certain Captain Piper kept ladies of ill repute. Over the years, the road has been rebuilt higher and higher, and the original front door is now underground. The bottom story has been sealed up for years like a time capsule and still has the gas fittings of a bygone era. But police don't use the lower level and certainly never go down there at night. They're too afraid. Sergeant Dennis Stevenson and his colleagues have never seen a ghost, but they're convinced they hear one. Some junior constables are so afraid they refuse to work alone in the building at night. And one of the policewomen wears a string of garlic around her neck to ward off evil spirits.
You have the presence, or you feel the presence of someone standing right next to you, ready to touch you on the shoulder. And you sort of look around, and of course there's no one there. Then you continue on, and of course the presence...
Hey, listen, I just had to cut in here. I'm all for the girl wearing the garlic around your neck. Listen, that's fine if it wards off people too, because here's the thing. Go all in. If there's something you believe in, don't let anybody tell you different. If you think that it's going to be vampires in there and you got to go work into a dark cellar, you want to wear garlic around your neck, you go, girl. Don't let anybody stop you.
There will come again. The switchboard here kept on operating. The buttons on this thing here would move to and fro, and the phones would ring. All this stuff was all moving. The panels were all moving. But I've had other matters here that I've been standing there at the typewriter over here, and of course I'll be busy typing, doing something here. You hear the sound of footsteps walking towards you. So just a moment, please. And when you finish, you look up, and no one's there.
Heard the footsteps outside. It's like a feeling of a presence behind you when you know someone's there or you feel you're being watched. It's about it. It's a strange sort of place. You get the funny feeling sometimes that when you're here by yourself, there is something watching you, you know. It's just unexplainable, but you can sort of feel it.
Sergeant Stevenson and his colleagues are not the only police to brush with the supernatural. The long arm of the law also reached for the unknown in August 1966, when reporters, television cameramen, and 1,000 onlookers flocked to an ordinary suburban street in the Melbourne suburb of East Oakley. For 3 days, the huge crowd trampled on the nature strips and stared expectantly at a small weatherboard house. Inside, a small party of neighbors and police were grappling with a poltergeist.
Quick stop here. Another incredible case that doesn't get nearly enough. And so many times I've heard people say it's been debunked. No, I'm sorry, it has not. This, and again, I'm not trying to be a hard bitch here. I'm just, sometimes people can mistake somebody being adamant about something. It's not like, and I won't budge on ideas or theories. Of course I will. If you got something good, bring it. Let's talk. That's what we're here for, right? But it's on things like that's been debunked or that video has been completely debunked. Okay, if it has, it has. Facts are facts, and I'm fine with facts. But when 15 people are saying something different about how something, a case came out, or it was, all that was BS. It was the girls. The girls came out and said that they faked it, and the sisters had a fight. Listen, a lot of that stuff is propaganda, and truly, it really is. Go back to the original. Remember what we learned from Dr. Epperly. Go back to the original, the people that were there. This case that they're about to tell you about, this is the Enfield ghost, the poltergeist. Remember? And so many cops, I mean, there are handwritten affidavits and things like that. And, again, we look at those things like they're throwaway things. But back in the day, people with jobs as, detectives, and they're wearing their trench coats and their suits and their comfortable shoes, and they got their hats on and things like that. And they're men that are going home for the family. They'll lie to their wives, about cheating and stuff like that. But they're not going to sign because, guys, but they don't sign things, affidavits like this, and go up against their buddies and go to the locker rooms and hang down at the station and saying that they saw a refrigerator come off the floor and fly across the kitchen as they did. So many people witnessed these things. Now, if something happened after the fact, or if it was PK or something along those lines, I have no dispute over that. But the case has not been debunked. The girls did not come out and say that they lied, made the whole thing up. And again, it's so easy these days to just throw a comment under a picture, on a Reddit thing. And then people remember that forever, and they think, look what happened with Amityville. It took weeks to sort that damn thing. And look what we came up with. Something happened in that house. Maybe not what they said happened, but something happened in that house. You see what I mean?
Constable Lloyd Sherlock was called to the scene by police radio. He spent an entire night in the house and wrote down everything that happened. 20 years later, he's no closer to finding a logical explanation.
I was taking a name, address, and all that sort of thing for the police report. Started on the wall, which seemed to be on the outside. And then from the west side wall, it went to the front door, and then it followed around the house. And after a while, it was rapping on the back door, and the back door was. And I recorded all these different positions on the only bit of paper I had, which was a previous message.
So you're sitting in this room 20 years ago, and you hear knocking coming from all over the house,
yes,
different directions, yes, within seconds of each other.
Split seconds. One second would be on one corner of a house, and then the next as fast as light perhaps could travel, and on the other side of the house.
So in investigating that, did you come up with any logical explanation?
Nothing. Even after 20 odd years, it still amazes me.
What was the closest you ever got to the sound?
The closest was on the back door. It was a flush panel door, and I had my hand on the doorknob, and I could sense and hear this knocking on the outside. Open the door, nothing there.
Did the sound stop?
Yeah, it stopped, as though it was beating me. To me it seemed as though he or she or what it was knew I was going to open that door.
So this entity or whatever it was that was knocking on the house seemed to have some intelligence attached to it.
I reckon it did. The only thing I can put it down is something supernatural, something unexplained.
While we were filming at the site, a next-door neighbor told us that he had been inside the house when the poltergeist activity first erupted. before the crowds and police first arrived. He agreed to tell us his story on condition that we conceal his identity.
Well, I have seen 2 or 3 lights, only about 8 inches long, similar to a small fluorescent lighting. And I've seen that on about 3 occasions, and on different nights.
Were these lights moving?
Absolutely.
Inside the house?
Inside the house. The taps were always going on and off, mainly staying on all the time. At one stage there, I did get a spanner and tighten them up, and I defied anybody to have turned them on without using a spanner, but they still went on. Something or someone turned them on.
Am I wrong? But this shit's terrifying. I mean, these poor people, right? So that right there tells you, if you see these people, if you understand that they recorded this in the 80s, so we're going back, remember the decades, their age at that time, so you understand the decades they grew up in and how they felt about honor, respect. These gentlemen that work with other guys, they don't want to get razzed, down at the deli counter or the lunch, on the lunch break or the water cooler, right? Whatever. And they're saying these things happened and they're living with this and they're trying to sort it. It's quite amazing.
Seeing the bed being more or less rocked like a rocker, and then at times the kids getting jumped up and down, thumped up and down as if you were pushing the bed up and down all the time.
Is there any way the children could have been doing that themselves?
No, no way in the world, no way in the world.
So did it appear as if some other force was doing it?
Absolutely.
What was the state of the children when this was happening?
Oh, they were in a bad way, a real bad way.
Poltergeists are rarer than conventional hauntings, and they seem to have a much more devastating effect on those who suffer them at close quarters. It took the woman and her 2 daughters several years to fully recover from the experience. But when they moved out of the house, the activity suddenly stopped.
Poltergeist cases, like the one we've just seen, have got nothing to do with ghosts whatsoever. They centre around a particular person rather than a particular place, like this 13-year-old girl that I've got on the screen. In her presence, things appeared and disappeared mysteriously, and objects were thrown around the room. She believed that it was a devil, Dracu, who was doing it, and occasionally when he got annoyed with her, he would bite her and scratch her, like these marks that you see on the cheek at the moment. I've investigated 12 poltergeist cases, 6 of which turned out to be genuine. What interests me very much is how that poltergeist subject differs from an ordinary person. And the answer seems to be that they're bottling up an intense emotion like anger, and nothing of it is getting out. When I succeed in getting them to release that anger, the disturbances stop.
How many times has Cisco told you, pressure busts pipes? You got to get that anger out. You got to ground. You got to meditate. You got to do the yogas. You got to do the running, the exercise, the craft, the art, the creativity. You pressure bust pipes. I mean, 1 minute everything's fine. The next minute you're slinging the refrigerator across the house. I'm telling you. Pressure bust pipes. You heard it here first. This has been a public service announcement.
Investigators have been more interested in the energy dynamics. What they do is to plot the movements in relation to the poltergeist subject. When you do that, this kind of diagram of the movements results. From the information, the type of energy field that could be producing the movements can be worked out. The energy appears to be swirling around the person, building up and collapsing as it does so, something like an electric fan rotating and blowing pieces of paper about. Poltergeist energy is being explored for its military applications. The Russians, for example, have someone who can stop a frog's heart beating using such energy. It seems that in poltergeist cases at least, it's the special power of a living person which produces the disturbance. But that's not the traditional explanation for a ghost. Some people with religious views believe that evil spirits or demons can haunt a house and are hostile and
Pressure busts pipes. It's plumber philosophy, but it works. You feel me? I know you know me. I know you know what I said, Jack. It's funny. Okay. Hey, take your time, man. We're just jump in when you want to. You got something you want to say about it? Just turn your mic on and say it. That's what we're here for because, like I said, we're all learning together here. I like this guy,
destructive towards living people in it. To investigate this possibility,
yes,
we must go to a former hospital 97 kilometers east of Perth.
The old township of York stands like a time capsule in the Avon Valley, a fertile district on the edge of the West Australian desert. The town flourished in the 1880s as a staging post between Perth and the gold diggings. But in 1894, a railway to the goldfields bypassed York, and the town was neglected for more than half a century. The old York Hospital was built in 1896 to serve the farming district, and is on the site of a convict depot opposite the town cemetery. The hospital was used mainly by poorer residents. Wealthier people were nursed in their own home, where surgery was carried out on the kitchen table or in the patient's room. The building is now owned by the National Trust, which leases it to the state government as a youth hostel. In January 1980, a group of 5 adults and 28 children from a little athletics club 144 kilometers away traveled to York Hospital for a camping holiday. But their holiday was to become a nightmare.
We were told not to go upstairs at all.
Did you go upstairs at any stage?
Yes, we went up the first night. The reason we went up the first night because it was such a very, very hot time, and the children were very hot. And I suggested, if we had a look upstairs, being up high, there may be more breeze coming through for the children to sleep up there. And of course, Paul and Mrs. Kramer went upstairs, but when they came downstairs, they were very pale, and they said there's something wrong with the place up there.
We went up there with torches, and we got midway along the dormitory, and our torches went out. We had this howling wind coming down from the chimney, and with 47 degrees outside, there was no way that there could have been any wind.
We walked past the fireplace in the middle of the room, and both our torches went out. Now, at first I thought it was just my torch blowing, so we walked back 3 or 4 times, and again they went on and off, corresponding to when we were in front of the fireplace, and there again when we sort of came past the fireplace. But again, every time we walked in front of the fireplace for about 2 or 3 meters, they actually went off.
I see right away my mind goes to this. What are you trying to tell me? Is there something in the fireplace? Is there something hidden in the fireplace? Did you die in front of the fireplace? You got something you want to tell me about this fireplace? You know what I mean? It's not just, it can turn the light on and off. It's obviously has a pattern to it. So is it trying to tell you something? Or is it just turning? Sometimes a cigar is just, a cigar. Sometimes it's just, hey, I'm turning on the light, as you're walking past. But that seems distinct to me. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? It seems like almost like it's trying to, yeah, right there. I don't know. Maybe I've been watching too much Abbott and Costello as ghosts, but I'm always thinking about what the ghost is trying to tell me. What does it think about me telling him Okay. I just
Oh, did you freeze up?
saw something in my in here. I did. I froze up. Are we back?
You thawed out.
What now? I'm good.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. All right. So anyhow, yeah, interesting. I think that maybe perhaps the ghost was. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think, AJK? Like maybe he was trying to get him to focus on the fireplace, not just that the lights were going on and off. That's what I got from this.
You came back on again.
You know your torch has gone out, and you know the other person's torch has gone out. We sort of looked at the torches to see if there was anything wrong with them. As I say, they came back on their own accord.
There was a foul smell which came from a small attic which was up the top. To me it smelled as something dead, sort of like a dead animal or something, a very, very foul stench.
They said, well, you couldn't put the children up there because there's something strange up there. And then we're sitting there for a while and this terrible moaning noise started. Well, at first you'd say it was the wind, but then when you look and you say, well, there wasn't any wind. It was so hot and still at York. So it wasn't wind, but then it got louder and there was a definite sound of a woman crying, in pain, moaning.
It was a definite noise, which wasn't the rustle of the trees, it wasn't any wind, and the only way you could explain it was as a moaning.
It was frightening.
Out of the house.
It was very frightening because you'd swear there was someone up there in terrible pain, but I mean, because there wasn't anyone there.
Why did you not leave then?
Well, we're in a position, to be honest with you. As I said, we hired a bus, and Maureen's husband was kind enough to take the day off and drive us there, and he was to pick us up in a week's time, and that's all we could do. We had no transport there. We didn't have a car. Little did we know these kind of things would happen. I mean, you wouldn't have gone in the first place, would you?
But at this early stage, did you think the building was haunted, or did you think something else?
Mrs. Kramer had thought the place was haunted. And of course, I said, don't be stupid. You're imagining, your imagination's running a little bit wild here. And of course, Paul said to me, you know, Mum, there's something definitely wrong here.
Now, listen, this is also, it's something you might want to remember for the future. When you go to a place, make sure you got transportation out of it, because don't take it for granted that you're not setting up a weekend of bed and breakfast that isn't, haunted with 6 kind of demons and, a haunted doll of some kind that's going to haunt you for the rest of your life and probably 5 generations of your grandkids and relatives and stuff. You don't know. She's stuck there. Did you hear? Like they didn't. Why didn't you leave? Well, we got dropped off. We had to spend a week here. We didn't know. They got screaming all night. I mean, keep the keys to the car.
Well, the first thing that happened that morning, Maureen and I got up to get the children's breakfast. We went into the kitchen. We got the milk. And I had this crockery jug, which I put on the bench. And I walked across to Maureen. And the next thing, out of the corner of my eye, I could see this jug lift and come across float straight across the room at it.
I just stood there watching it. I couldn't believe my eyes. It moved and it came to the end, and instead of toppling off like things normally do, it just floated.
It was very hard to believe. And of course I thought then, well, it didn't just fall on the floor, it definitely floated. And of course Maura and I stood there shocked. We were shocked. Then the next thing, the stave would turn on and off. While you were using it, it had just turned itself on and off. It was a very queer thing that kept happening in those kitchens.
Did anything else around the place move?
Yeah, and the doorknobs. You'd be standing outside and they'd be spinning. Just absolutely spinning. And there was nobody else on the other side or anything because we checked all that. But they were just spinning. The doorknobs spin.
For some reason, I was just walking past the main staircase, which went upstairs, and came to my notice and getting one of the ladies, there seemed to be blood coming from within the staircase, sort of running out on the outside of the staircase. The actual lady tasted it to check that it really was blood, and she said it was. I mean, it definitely looked like, I didn't personally taste it, but she did.
What did he just say? Wait a minute. Did I hear? Y'all heard it, right? Did you hear it?
Which went upstairs and came to my notice and getting one of the ladies, there seemed to be blood coming from within the staircase, sort of running out on the outside of the staircase. The actual lady tasted it to check that it really was blood, and she said it was. I mean, it definitely looked like, I didn't personally taste it, but...
I found that about 1 in 5 of my...
I just totally messed up everything. I'll find it again. But what are you doing? Don't do this. Don't do this. We don't need to tell anybody not to do this, right? She tasted the blood. Yeah. And the best part is, and she said, yep, that's blood. I know what that tastes like. You got to pay attention to little stuff, folks. That's where all the gems are. The real diamonds. You got to listen to in between. This is what I'm saying. I mean, he was shocked too. The young man was shocked. Well, he couldn't believe it. Wow. Wait a minute. I'll find it. Right about in here. Wait a minute. Second time he was talking. Nope. Too far. Go back. Too much. Take it back. Am I too far now? Where'd he go? There he is.
Like blood. Coming from within the staircase, sort of running out on the outside of the staircase. The actual lady tasted it.
What?
To check that it really was blood, and she said it was. I mean, it definitely looked like, I didn't personally taste it, but she did, and she said it definitely tasted like blood, and it certainly looked like blood.
You know what it tasted like? God bless
It was trickling out at probably a constant rate. It sort of, if I was sort of trying to give you a quantity, it probably would have been, if I mopped it up, I might have probably filled a full face cloth type thing if I mopped it up.
Well, the worst thing that happened there, we had a little girl there, and she was running along the hallway. And the next thing she screamed, and of course when she came down to us, her wrist was cut right open. Terrible gash she had.
The girl was actually somehow thrown through the window, arm first. She, I think, from memory search, had 12 or 15 stitches inserted in her arm. Now this little girl, she's only a little tot, that's all. It would be impossible for her to fall and her arm to go through that glass. It was too high for the child.
How high was the glass from the floor?
Probably at 3.5 to 4 foot.
How tall was the girl?
Well, she was only about 8 years old, probably 4 foot herself.
They had to get a plank of wood and smash the glass. That's the only way you could get it out. So we couldn't work it out.
Did you only hear the moaning the once?
No, the moaning was every night. And it even got to the stage where a couple of afternoons, where I was left with the children by myself, a couple of children, it continued then. But it was every night.
You know that there are people watching saying, what a pack of nonsense.
Oh, yeah. We've sort of been through this before. It just, things happen, you sort of tell them as you see them.
But this really did happen?
Oh, yeah.
The 3 witnesses say the frightening phenomena continued at York Hostel for 4 days without anyone seeing a ghost. But they suspected the disturbances were coming from the locked room upstairs, where Paul Harrison and Maureen Kramer first experienced a foul smell and cold wind.
You're following along, aren't you, JK? Listen, they're trapped. You know this, right? They don't have a car. They're not leaving. They got the kids, and they're trapped in this thing. I think they're on vacation. And just constant stuff keeps happening, and they're smelling things, they're seeing things, but they haven't seen a ghost. I think it's trying to communicate with them through that flour canister off the thing. Smash that. And you know what it reminded me of when that thing was floating through the kitchen? Not only did it remind me of the old 13 Ghosts, because there's a famous scene that happens, but one of the ones that always creeps me out is maybe you're familiar with this one, Aaron. A lit cigarette comes through the ceiling, lit and smoking, and it's floating down from the ceiling and floating through the kitchen. And as it comes eye level with the 2 people that are in the kitchen seeing this, it starts floating towards them. And the next thing they cut to, the interviewer cuts to the face of the woman that's witnessed this. And she said, I was terrified. Like, hell yeah, you'd be terrified. Because like you said, the burners, something appliance caught on fire, didn't you say, in the house you were in? I mean, they're not playing around. I mean, think about it as a mom or as a dad, and you wake up and all 4 burners are going on your gas stove, flames. You got kids sleeping in the house, and you just happen to be thirsty, getting up, getting a drink of water, that extra piece of cake, got left behind, is in there, whatever, and see that this is dangerous. It's not playing around, and people want to jump into this subject and start pushing ghosts around and demanding, that they do this or they show yourself, and, getting all neck in it and hand on her hip shit, telling them what to do. And next thing you know, listen, and I'll shut up. I worry because I know what can happen. I know it. Like I said, young couple goes out, they're in a paranormal investigation, they're a little aggressive, and that's me saying that. Just, they don't know, they're kind of taking that approach, and they're going kind of for the dark stuff right out the gate, which is, again, another red flag on the field. They go out, and they're antagonizing a serial killer that's dead, was executed. They go to supposedly his where he buried a lot of his victims. Again, why? What are you doing? I'm just, my opinion, do what you want to do, free will and all, but my opinion, what are you doing? Okay. And they wind up talking about this guy so much that they bring him to them. Of course, very much, again, think John Wilkes Booth in the gift shop at Ford's Theater. They're talking about him. He's showing up. He wants to hear it. You're connected into their energy. Insert that into every culture in which way you want. It's energy. Okay? So what are they doing? This thing attaches to him, follows him home, and starts killing again. Sucking the energy and the life force, literally, and making the weak one of the couple almost dead. I mean, she's in her living room in a hospital bed with an IV. This is how far it got, and an oxygen machine. This is how far it got. So it's nothing to play with. But anyway, I digress. Did you want to say anything, Aaron? Are you good?
Legend has it that in the old days, patients who had died and those who were about to die were kept together in that section of the hospital. Locals call it the morgue or dying room. And it's said that on certain nights, the ghost of a former matron who died violently at the old hospital can be heard moaning as it wanders along the upstairs wards. On the final night of their stay, something happened which forced the three adults to gather their courage and pay a last visit to the dying room on the top floor.
I saw what I can only describe as an apparition on the stairs. It was just like a fleeting object. I can't really describe what it was. All I know is it was absolutely petrified me.
She said to me, there's something floating up the staircase. Because as we turned around and looked at her, her face had changed completely. You'd never recognise the woman. At first I got frightened. I would have said the woman had had a stroke because her face was so twisted you wouldn't have recognised her.
Apparently, from what I can gather, I knew nothing else for a few minutes, and then we heard this almighty bang.
An extremely loud explosion seemed to come from, very close. Originally we thought it was a gas heater or a water heater or something blowing up.
That's a hell of a bang, folks.
I had to investigate. I couldn't work it out. But I only got to the second landing, and a terrible feeling came over me, like pins and needles, and I couldn't move. And you felt very, very old, like you'd aged. I felt like I'd aged. But then the pins and needles left me, but I didn't continue. I came back down. Paul and Mrs. Kramer continued up and looked in this small room.
It was open. It actually blown open, and it was fixed right the way back. The bolt was back and the lock was off.
Did you get any sensation while you were there from that particular room?
Yes, I couldn't put my foot over the threshold. I felt nauseated every time I went near the place. It was uncanny.
It was only a very, very small room and there didn't appear to be anything in there, but the smell was still in there.
I was going to go and ask for help to take these children out that night because I said I can't stay here another night, but we had to. There was nothing more we could do.
What did you in fact do then?
Well, we all went into the one room. I know it's going to sound silly, but we had, one of them had a baseball bat, cricket stumps, and even one of the ladies had a can of pressure pack fly spray. I know it sounds so stupid. What we're going to do with it, I don't really know, but then we had, everything was quiet for a while, and then this friend was with us. She was laying on the bed and she started screaming out, they've got me by the throat. And of course we said to her, wake up, you're having a sleep, but she wasn't asleep. And because when we turned the light on, I said, you've only had a sleep. I said, it's been too much for you. But when we looked, there's definite marks on her throat. And of course I think that was the last straw. I mean, that definitely, she said she had me by the throat and there was definite marks on that woman's throat. She said to me, don't go on your bed, there's something at your window, Joan. And I said to her, no, I said, there's nothing at the window. But I did, I pulled the curtain back and there was a figure at the window.
Can you describe it?
It was a very big woman, very, very big woman, like matrony sort of a woman. And all you can see, it was the body, the head, but her arms were folded like that. Yet I lifted the curtain, and it shows you what shock does to people, because I must have been in shock. I just kept staring at it. Then I put the curtain back, and I said to him, there's nothing. No, I thought, no, I'm not seeing it. So I laid on the bed, and I thought, no, I've got to look again. And I did look again, and it was still there. The next morning we were up, out and waiting for that bus.
I really can't. No, I really can't give an explanation. A lot of things just happened. I've got no explanation whatsoever. I'm absolutely stumped.
Your hostel seemed to come straight out of a horror movie. It also snowballed from day to day, so that by the final night, things were becoming very hectic indeed. I think those people were lucky that they could leave the following day, otherwise the disturbances would have got even worse. When children are involved in a group like that, it's best to get them out as quickly as possible and back to their own homes.
Absolute logic. This is what I'm talking about. Parapsychologist that just, he knows his stuff. Listen, kids are involved, get them out. Get them out. Why are you taking a chance? That's what I'm saying. Keep the keys to the car. Don't get stuck. They had a hell of a vacation. What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? What do you want to say about it? I like this guy. I mean, they seem to be very logical people in Australia. Do we have anybody from Australia tonight? They seem to be very logical. At least they were in the 80s, you know. But he's making sense to me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's no place for kids.
And you're also a logical man. There you go. This is what I'm saying. How bad does it need to get? You wonder what makes people stay, or what makes people something like this. I woke up and I saw this, big angry, thing standing in the room, and it was leaning over me, and I could feel its breath and the whole shebang, long fangs and all the whole thing. And then, I went to sleep. But you wonder, is it some kind of a, hypnotic thing too? Is it some kind of a telepathic, control of some sort, not so much as it just sucks all the energy out of you completely, but how many stories have we heard where, a spouse is asleep, sleeps through something horrific, like the wife sleeping next to him all of a sudden starts levitating to the ceiling. She's screaming, wake up, wake up, wake up. He's not even moving, has no idea till it's all over, what's happened. The bed's banging up and down, he's asleep. There's got to be some kind of a Vulcan mind melt kind of thing that they can do. Some, not all, because we can't put them all in a, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I think they need to clean. They need to go in and clean that building. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's no place for kids. But yeah, the thing is too. It seems like we often talk about things are so connected, but aliens seem to have this as well, and spirits coming from the other side might have this. And what I mean is like the telepathic. So how far is it to reach out and add on to that and take it to the next level of being able to freeze somebody or put them in some kind of state of, holding, pattern, because they're not waking up, they're sleeping through this, and there's their spouse screaming, obviously waking up half the neighborhood. You just often wonder about little details like that, like what kind of power is that? What are they doing? Is it all very much like an illusion, like magic, or when all of a sudden there's fire and then it's not there, so that was an illusion. Are they putting it into your head and you just think you're seeing it? I mean, it's quite incredible when you think about it. And that case that we talked about, the Brownsville one, has got that in it too, a lot of that. And it's very interesting, I think, to look into that, to say, what is this ability that some entities and some ghosts seem to have, typical regular human beings that passed, whether they know it or not, are still here, earthbound, and seem to have some of these or at least develop these abilities. You know, like the serial killer I mentioned earlier. I mean, first of all, how horrible, what are you doing? Second of all, he had the ability to wear out this human being virtually healthy to near death over a relatively short amount of time. Yet you still have shows where people say ghosts can't hurt you. That's a ghost. That's not an entity. It might be a very evil human being, very psychotic, broken, damaged, foobar human being. You feel me? But still not an ancient, we're not talking about jinn here, or something along those lines. It's interesting. It's just interesting to look at it and see, is it magic? A chaos magic? Is it just some, like I said, like some kind of Vulcan mind meld? You know what I mean? It's just to freeze somebody and hold them in suspended animation and still be able at the same time to do all this with somebody else and other things. Like throw a bed around, move dressers, sling things, spin somebody, an adult human being around on the ceiling for a while, and then sling them back on the bed. And the other person then notices it. I mean, that's a lot of not only ability, but energy and power. It's crazy to think. So listen, man, it's like 10 o'clock, and I think I'm going to just throw it out there. Are you available tomorrow night at all?
Yeah.
Do you want to come back and finish this tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Because we're about halfway through and we've got more of this, and he goes, like, again, they continue to go through giving examples with these people, and they're just adorable about it too. I want to reiterate that they're very proud of the fact that everybody signed notarized affidavits that they were telling the truth. They didn't get paid. They're very proud of their stories. They tried to stick to the stories, which I love, exactly like the person's telling it. That one, I don't know if you got to see this. You might have been walking the dog, Aaron, and it was the one where the man was talking about the lights going through his house, like laser beams, going through the house. They were orange, and he said it was almost like bent fluorescent lighting tubes that were flying through his house. I'd not heard that one. Orbs, yeah. Mists, yeah. Maybe even just light flashes, but that was just weird, almost like the rods that Steve talks about all the time, flying through the wood line, often seen around Bigfoot. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the Sierra Sounds guy described.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all that much about it. It's just, it intrigued me because I'd never seen anything like that before. And I love how this show, this haunted, again, I don't know who directed it. It didn't have a lot of information on it. I guess I could have dug it up, but I was kind of trying to. Steve surprised me. We thought he was going to be able to do it last minute because he's overwhelmed. I mean, you got to pack up your whole life and put it on a plane. It's a lot, especially when you got, a pet or a kid or something like that with you, So I just thought it was really intriguing. And please think about that. Maybe we'll talk more about it tomorrow night, but I want to thank you for coming in tonight and sitting with us and, watch me eat popcorn and tell ghost stories. But every single one of these, I think we take something else from it. We're not sure, maybe not all of us, but, I think I learned something every time I hear another ghost story, at least whether it's how people react, or, how the ghost reacted or what went down. You can never learn enough about it. And I hope you come back tomorrow night, man. That'd be great. Let's finish this. Okay. Do you want to go ahead and tell them about your channel on the way out again?
Oh, yeah, it's the Radio Vault 9303, and I'm doing a series now on gunfighters and outlaws and lawmen. Some of them are Texas Rangers, and some are we call seedy gunfighters, lawbreakers.
Yeah. That's so interesting, though. You never get tired of that either. Cowboys and the Old West and Jesse James and Billy the Kid and the mystery and the controversy around that. And it's deep, man.
Yeah, I want to try to find. I got to find. Of course, you always have to find the source, but I was going to do like military next. Like of course, Audie Murphy being the most decorated soldier in World War II, and James Anez from Gunsmoke. He did some things. He was actually pretty highly decorated too.
Yeah, him and his brother. I can't remember. God, Steve would know off the top of his head, but his brother. He had white hair. Come on, chat. He had white hair.
Was he in acting too?
Mission Impossible. He was in.
Oh, that was his brother?
Yeah. I had a picture of Peter Graves. God, ooh, that one almost hurt coming out of the back of my memory. But yeah, Peter Graves was his brother.
Oh, that was his stage name?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And they did that so they could be separate, but one went, this way, and of course, into played Marshall Dillon in what the heck was the name of that? Gunsmoke. And then of course Peter Graves went into all those little fast car movies and the detective shows and the Mission Impossibles, and he did a lot of documentaries. I did one here on Bigfoot. It's called Bigfoot and Sepia, and it goes back to the 1970s documentary that he did. And they interviewed some great guys that were out Bigfoot hunting. They weren't taking any nonsense about anything. They know it existed. And the only thing they argued about is what do we do when we find one? I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was great. It was really great. And the thing was, the kicker for me was that was the 70s. And dude, they're sitting at a picnic table. Imagine, if you will. You got 4 guys, and each one of them had been searching and very involved and front and center, the guys to go to talk to about Bigfoot, and each one had been in it 20, 25 years apiece, right? So at that table, you got at least 100 years experience. This was in the 70s. And they're talking and having the same conversation and the same facts and the same type stories and at the same spot we're in that we would have today if we were sitting at that picnic table. It's like we haven't, you know what I mean? Who's winning that chess game? You know what I mean? Think about it. Because here, what have we learned? We still just have the cement footprints and maybe a piece of hair, maybe, if that. We've got sightings. We've got people who said they've shot him, been attacked him, had lunch with him. We got, I won't say his name here, but he's got a couple of numbers, and he talks a lot about missing people in forests, in clusters, if you know what I mean. And I heard Steve and I sat here with the chat one night. You might have been in it at the time, where he's talking to Bigfoot on the phone in Russian with a translator. Did you hear that?
I've seen that video.
Did you see that video?
Yeah.
And he's talking to Bigfoot, and he's like, "Thank you for taking the time to come and speak." Yeah. It's thank you so. And he's waits for the translation. Because, of course, he doesn't speak fluent Bigfoot. So he waits calmly and respectfully for the translation. This is great TV, man. And he's just, And you can almost see him sweating just a little bit on that porn stash of his. We all know who we're talking about. Please don't put it in the chat. We're trying to be respectful here. But and it's not that I don't. It's not that I don't. But listen, since he came out, I know the inside backdoor stories too, and I respect what he does. I respect, who am I? But anyway, yeah, and you could see him kind of sweat growing across his brow and going through his mind like, man, what are you doing? Is anybody like recording this? But he's afraid not to take it serious just in case. I mean, you kind of caught him, his body language and everything kind of felt that way to me. So anyway, ridiculous stuff. I mean, I don't think I don't think Bigfoot's going to call on the phone through a translator to talk to, And the thing kicks me is the fights. Now, I'll try to be very vague here, but if you guys that want to put this puzzle together, you're going to have to want it, but just listen closely. The backdoor stuff on that is he was just so adamant. It's like, those people that have to continuously tell you that, look, I was in the Navy SEALs, I was a Marine, but they're doing it every single show or every single time they try to make a point. Look, I was a Marine. I know what I'm talking about. And I get it. But after a while, when you're doing that and you're saying you have to listen to me because I was this or he pushed that a lot, and people would give him the respect, and he keep still pushing it and want more. And he would demand that you read all his books before you had him on. There was fights and stuff, and people were made to feel less than, and like what they had to say wasn't important enough. And then a decade later, you come out and say exactly what those people were telling you. Are you tracking me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And not acknowledge that you had done that very publicly and very nastily, very, very in a nasty way. Does that make sense? And then come back. See, that doesn't show character to me. If I'm wrong about something and I find out the next day I was completely wrong, I come back and I go, look, I was off track completely. I mean, I don't know what happened, but I heard this other fact that completely changed everything. Because how are we going to learn if we're not like that? That's just always puzzled me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like some of these YouTube channels that I watch. A lot of them have been saying like they don't like the Indiana Jones movie, and they're just pointing out all this bad stuff. But the people I know in person told me that they went and they're like, "Oh, it's great. It's just like every other Indiana Jones movie."
Yeah. Okay.
But it's almost like they have to. I think they're getting. I think they're getting clicks by giving negative review. Being negative.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Absolutely.
bad. It's like bad
I
press.
hate clickbait. Yeah, and I hate clickbait, and I try to be very careful with what I call my stuff too. And that's probably another reason why I don't get a lot of they don't refer my channel a lot, or my episodes don't get referred a lot. It's not just because I'm annoying and obnoxious, which sorry, you know what I mean, or whatever else you want to put under that. It's also because I don't clickbait. I'm not going to say, mysterious, horrible thing found when Lincoln dug up flesh-eating fungus could still be attacking the world. Whatever it may be, whatever clickbait. There's a lot of people doing that, using the news to scare people too. And I don't believe in that. I believe in telling the truth and keeping the facts up front, keeping your eye on stuff. Watch your six, situational awareness, discern for yourself. And I think we've all taken that approach with the paranormal too. And wouldn't it make sense? We've taken use the same skills to discern if you're an herbalist and you're trying to, triage a sick child or, that you care about. I mean, you're going to use the data that you've learned, the things that you've learned, knowledge that you've absorbed over time. You're going to seek knowledge in other places that you trust, and it's the same with the paranormal, and I think people that bother to take those steps and to do that and look at the facts and also try to keep history alive. I think it all goes hand in hand, you know, and I think that's just so important, and integrity in doing that and keeping the facts up front without all the smoke and mirrors, man. YouTube channel or whatever. I think all the voices are important. I mean, you're doing a great job, and that's what we try to do here. So listen, everybody, see you tomorrow night. I got a cough. Thanks, and you're coming back. This is great. This was a lot of fun. Bring your popcorn. I'm going to play a little something on the way out. And love y'all. Good night. Thanks, babe.